With that being said, I need your help. I need you to watch this video for at least 1 minute so I can gain some campaign funds. With that being said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a single father to a 9-year-old boy. I'm a caretaker to a disabled vet. That is my father. My mom was a federal worker for over 35 years. My sister works as a teacher in a Title I school. I'm a big firm believer of taxing the rich, taxing big corporations, causing or getting in a little bit of good trouble, that sort. No stock trading at all as a congressman should be allowed. A big proponent of fixing our immigration process. It should be much faster. Yo he aprendido español. Again, thank you guys for watching. You can get more feedback on my views and platform if you look at my website in my bio. I appreciate you guys, and I want you to know that someone's going to DC that cares about you and is going to cause real change. Thanks, you guys.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Claremont Show. I'm Lamont, that is
Claire.
And our motto here is the new school meets the old school for a completely new school of thought when it comes to progressive politics. And we've got a rocking show for you today. We are going to cover the LA riots and how now Trump is trampling on the Constitution by getting other states involved where we're peacefully protesting, Texas and some other states. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about RFK and this ridiculous policy he's doing with healthcare. But what really makes this show pop today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a special guest. We're going to have Johnathan Bonner on, running for the GA-13 Congress seat, ladies and gentlemen. We'll ask him some of these tough questions, get his thoughts on everything. The Claremont Show starts right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that full. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
I guess you want to know what these are, don't you, Claire? So for those that been following me for years, you know, I started my channel doing movies and TV reviews, and we call these the tissue paper shades. And whenever our favorite characters would die, say Tony Stark from Marvel or Ghost from Power would die, I would have, instead of pouring out liquor, I pour out my tissue paper shades. A lot of us feel like we needed tissue paper shades because of what's been going on with the destruction of democracy and Constitution in America. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to keep my shades out for that feeling of death because we've got a great crop of new candidates that give me hope so I can take these bitches off. One of the first to come to the stage is the big homie, Johnathan Bonner. What's up, my brother?
Hey, it's great to be here. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Especially your intro was great. I feel it. I understand it. I'm living it. So I'm here to fix that.
Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's definitely. As Claire said, it's all ours.
Yeah.
You can go. No, go ahead, JB.
No, I appreciate here. Again, I'm excited. And yeah. I'm gonna let you go.
All right. I want to make sure everybody knows that you can follow me and Claire on the podcast, Politics of Being Black in America. It is under the playlist, The Claremont Show. We always enjoy getting the audience involved. If you want to leave us a message, or if you want to leave a message for congressional hopeful JB, Johnathan Bonner, that link that you see, bit.ly, talk to us, capital T for us. Leave us a message and we'll get it to them. And we always start these shows out, Johnathan, on a lighthearted note. We call it Politicking in America While Living Under MAGA. And if I didn't have Claire here, I would call it Politicking While Being Black in America, where we air out petty grievances that get on our nerves. But before I say that, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about JB. He is a staunch advocate for healthcare. Now, before I read his profile and his bio, I knew he was a staunch advocate for healthcare because if you go and see his social media, it looks like this. If the Incredible Hulk could go to Wakanda and have sex with one of the Dora Milaje and spit out a baby, it would be this brother right here. Look at this dude, man. Look at them delts. Look at them pecs. Look at health is obviously key to him, and we will definitely get there to health and how he takes care of himself and how he wants to see America do it in a minute. JB, you get first crack at this. What is your petty grievance that you're having to deal with while politicking and living under MAGA?
While living in Georgia, I don't know if you guys ever been. Traffic is something we live in. I probably have lived maybe 2 years of my life in traffic, especially in Atlanta. We did the LA and thought, hey, let's get 8 lanes, yet we still have traffic. So that is probably the most annoying thing, especially that we have a great subway system, but it's yet to expand to go to the other districts or throughout Georgia, unfortunately. So that's a lot of politicking, and that's something that is something I'm here to change, because, again, I don't want anyone living in most of their life in traffic, at least a year, 2 years. That's something that's major that needs to be fixed.
Johnathan, I grew up in the DC area, and I can tell you that I've spent probably at least 5 years of my life in traffic. So I hear you.
And JB, for a little while, I was a truck driver for about 6 months. Guess what made me quit? The traffic in Atlanta, the traffic in DC, and the traffic in New York. I said, why am I testing this out? I don't want to own a truck. I don't want to touch a truck. Hell, I didn't even want to touch my children's big wheels because it had so many wheels on it. No, I'm with you. I completely feel you. And we do need to do something. And hopefully JB can be part of the team that can give us some relief, especially in Georgia. And maybe he can set a precedent that gets the whole nation motivated. So Claire, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, JB.
No, Claire can go. That's fine.
Claire, you know I'm anxious to hear, what are you politicking on this week?
Oh, you know, I'm always bringing some heat, but literally this time I am over the southern, and not just the heat, the stickiness and the humidity. How am I supposed to fight fascism when it's 90 degrees and 90% humidity? How am I supposed to be calm and cool and collected under such conditions? Anyway, it's reaching that part of June where we're transitioning from some nice 70, 80 degree days, and we're hitting those 90s. And Lamont knows this, but Johnathan, I'm a waitress as I work my way through school, and I have to wear this all black, long sleeve, long pants get up. And every damn time I get in my car, I'm like, God, I wish I had a remote start. This is awful. So anyway, over the heat. Love summer, but over the heat.
I understand. I like to take it as a thought of good. I'm good under heat, under pressure. Georgia's southern, step out the door, I'm sweating. I long sleeves and everything. I'm used to it. So
you're like, I got this. This is nothing for me.
Nothing really shocks me anymore.
Love it. Cool and collected in all circumstances.
I jokingly tell people, as you can see, I'm pretty dark. And I always tell people I'm allergic to heat. Damn it. My skin soak up the heat rays as if I was Superman, but I don't get the powers he gets. I do not like heat. If my wife would let me, I would move somewhere where it snows 24/7, but she's from Michigan, Detroit. So she graduated med school there. She was like, we're not going nowhere where it's cold. I'd rather deal with the heat than the cold. So I'm just stuck, and happy wife, you know the rest.
Yeah.
Lamont, recently, I have a black brother, not by blood, but he is. We also have a black dog, and recently I took him for a walk, and he was struggling the whole time. He kept turning around, and so I sent in the family group chat. I was like, "Man, it must be hard being black in the summer." And my brother goes, "You have no idea," and I was like, "I don't. I really don't."
It's very funny. So where I live, there's a state rep named Josh Bonner, and he's a white guy, great guy. And it's funny, when he heard about me running for Congress, everyone's like, "Oh, is your brother or someone in your family running?" And I introduced myself, and he's like, "Oh, you're my family member running." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Can't we see we're related?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. I just stayed in the sun a little bit longer. That's just how it goes." So
Oh
Just
man, that's a good
funny
one.
bad moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bit.
yeah, little vitamin D never hurt anybody, right?
Exactly.
So I'm glad you two got the funny ones out. I'm glad that y'all was funny because mine might be funny, but it's sad funny. And so what I'm politicking while living under MAGA as a black man is the utter hypocrisy of MAGA and two of the top MAGA sites on the planet Earth, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I'm politicking because their hypocrisy about Joe Biden needing to step down because he was owed is deafening, because there are rumored reports, none of them substantiated, so I gave that quota, that Donald Trump's ass is so old he shits in his pants and he wears a Depends like my grandmother. Then the rumor is that Elon Musk is so piped out on ketamine that he pee his pants, and my 1.5-year-old don't pee in his pants. Is probably trained already. So the utter ridiculousness of y'all trying to say Joe Biden is an old, unfeathered man when you guys are having these older issues that you pretend like you don't have to, in essence, project what's really going on. I'm politicking on that. JB, tell me if I'm too harsh.
Oh, not at all. I find it very difficult. I tell people if you're 65 and up, you can't have a commercial flight or pilot. So that's another thing. Being the older you get, I understand you get the wisdom, but at a certain point, your cognitive starts to decline and things start to happen. And are you really that competent to run the strongest country in the world? As well as, let's be real, Elon, he's a billionaire. He can't relate to anyone. He will never relate to anyone. So why is he in our government? Why is he even over here? I mean,
He's also South African.
Exactly. One thing, I saw a funny thing. This is the only time I've ever said this, but if I saw Elon, I would say, go back to your country, go back to Africa. But that's just that one thing. It's because they can't relate. They're rich. They didn't earn their money. It's nepotism. These are people that they only are here for their own interests. We need to call that out.
Exactly. Claire, am I too harsh in that critique of these people that are hungry hypocrites?
There's nothing, almost nothing that I hate more. Sorry, I don't like to use the word hate, dislike more than a hypocrite. If you're going to stand on your business, stand on your damn business. People going back on their word. And if you're going to go back on your word, admit that you've done it. But this whole shady business of saying one thing and then denying you ever said it or did it. We're in a day and age where we have proof. We have a video of you saying it. We have evidence showing that you have gone back on what you said, or you've accused someone else of something and now you're doing it. And people will be given that evidence and just go, I don't know what you're talking about. The gaslighting, we've talked about this actually on our first show, but yeah, the gaslighting is ridiculous. And like you said, JB, I'm tired of being represented by people who have no idea what the average American experience is, whether you're upper middle class, working class, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian. None of us have any type of lifestyle that relates to a billionaire. So why are they the ones running our country?
Right. Well said, Claire. Very well said. And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you have something that you're burning on, any petty grievance, please don't forget to subscribe, come to the channel. Don't forget to go to the podcast. Leave us a voice message. We will play some of these on the air. And if you have questions for JB, leave it here too so we can usher them to him. And now, JB, we'll get to the meat and potatoes of what we're here to discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, I will give JB a chance to summarize his candidacy, who he is closer to the end. I feel like one of the best ways to understand a person and the kind of choices they would make is to hear what they have to say about deep issues that are currently happening before they get into office. And that's what brings us to this issue going on right here with Trump. Trump is doing martial law. He's sending state troops to states where the governor didn't ask for it. And now that is spreading to places where we have peaceful protests and some governors who capitulate to his needs that want to do the same thing. And I've always said, JB, here's another hypocrisy. How are you MAGA and you're comfortable with what happened January the 6th when there is no riot greater than trying to steal democracy, attack democracy, pooping on Nancy Pelosi's desk, beating up police officers, versus these people in LA and many protests before that are protesting for equality. They're protesting because they don't want to see people violated with their rights. And you're not comfortable with this. The hypocrisy is deafening. And so to lead up to what I want JB to discuss first, I got a video clip of all the mayhem that's been going on. JB gets first lead after we come back. Take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll go to JB.
Now, we want to break down why the president calling for the California National Guard to step in is such a rare move, seeing as the governor of California has not requested the deployment. The president is instead invoking a rare federal law called Title 10. It's a section that allows the president to call up National Guard members to federal service during an invasion, rebellion, or if the president can't execute the law. NBC Bay Area's Marianne Favre is tracking the latest in Los Angeles, along with how Governor Newsom is responding. Marianne?
Well, tonight, Governor Gavin Newsom is responding to the president's order, calling President Trump's move inflammatory and saying it will escalate tensions amid the immigration crackdown.
Tear gas, flashbang grenades, and arrests punctuated the rallies earlier today, protesting the detention of immigrants and mass deportation by the Trump administration. Tonight, President Trump signed an order to deploy 2,000 members of the National Guard in response to the protests. Governor Newsom responded on X, saying the federal government is sowing chaos so they can have an excuse to escalate. That's not the way any civilized country behaves. More than 100 Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies have responded to what is being called an unlawful assembly, with more than 400 protesters and increased destruction of property.
As the crowd has grown, it has become more violent. There are individuals in the crowd that have been throwing objects at the federal agents.
But protesters say they're fighting to protect immigrants' rights, even as more Border Patrol agents respond to the city of Paramount in Southern California.
The Border Patrol, ICE, they know that they cannot go anywhere in this country where our people are and try to kidnap our workers, our people, and they can't do that without an organized and fierce resistance.
As small fires erupt in the streets and a wall of responders in tactical gear stand ready to respond, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said in a post on X that the Defense Department is immediately mobilizing the National Guard to support federal enforcement in Los Angeles. And if violence continues, active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton are on high alert and will also be mobilized. Governor Newsom says California authorities don't need the help. Today's unrest comes one day after dozens were taken into custody across at least 3 locations in Los Angeles.
JB, the floor is yours. When you see this happening in our country, what does that invoke? What does that make you feel?
It makes me feel angry. Growing up, I lived in Georgia. There's a great Latino community. I have a lot of friends that are Latino, as well as living in California and living in Texas. I've seen them all. And some of them are undocumented or their parents are undocumented. It's never been something that, oh, they're breaking the law, they're doing anything. It takes so long to just becoming a citizen. And it's not jumping the border. It's overstaying your visa. It's people trying to do better. These are people paying their taxes. These are people actually trying to improve our lives, doing the jobs we don't want to do. But yet this type of demeanor they're doing, it's hypocritical, because let's be honest, this is so much smaller than January 6th. Let's be real. And the difference is it's different color. And with that being said, I get very frustrated because I met someone that worked for ICE many, many years before the administration, way before. And he said ICE wasn't nearly as bad. It was one that goes into the community, actually talks to the community, not grab and pull. It was to make people feel comfortable. Because again, these are people that aren't familiar. They're scared. They just want to go in, find the criminals and grab them. But if you scare them, no one's going to talk to you. So you have to come in as a human being and talk to them on their level. But this administration has demonized them. They have created a place where they grab our families and break them apart. I saw yesterday in Florida that they're starting to grab underage minors that are going to foster homes and grabbing them and picking them up. What type of they're minors. This isn't their choice. They didn't want to be here, but this is the administration, how they are. And I'm just very frustrated. We don't have the country we are without immigrants. We all are immigrants. We're not from here. Unless you're Native American, you're not from here. So we need to call that out. We need to fight this type of, I'm going to be honest, bullshit. It's unfair, and I'm all for it. We have, growing up in the South, civil rights and things like that. Fight for rights. Fight with our community. As a Black man, our Latino community is right next to us because they understand what it's like to be a person of color in this nation. And I'm here to fight for them. And I can't be a good human or a person that wants to be a public servant if I'm not going to fight for my constituents that are undocumented or the ones that come from these immigrant backgrounds and things like that.
Claire, before you go, Johnathan, well said, eloquently said. I have a special surprise for both of y'all. You talk about people who have heritage here that goes all the way back to the natives. Claire, you talk about how much I preach women are going to be the ones that help save this country alongside brothers like JB. Well, JB and Claire, I brought a special surprise for you guys, someone that fits the mold of both. Ladies and gentlemen, running for the Senate in Oklahoma, a superstar on the rise, smile as bright as the moon when it's on the right side. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Jasmine Thomas. What's up, Jay?
Good morning. Well, it's morning where I am. So good afternoon to everyone on the East Coast. But hello. I am Nikayla Jasmine Thomas, and I am running for the U.S. Senate seat in Oklahoma. And I'm actually really good friends with Johnathan. So I was coming here just to support him and just push along his message and just show how strong and knowledgeable the Black community is with their own community, not just the Black community, but America in general.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will have Jasmine next week, next Thursday, this same time, full interview. We're only going to have her for about 10 minutes this time, but we wanted her to get in on this same exact conversation that we're talking about. She's a little closer to California and Texas where they're doing these crazy things. And so with her brother being here, JB, I wanted to get some of her insight on what she thinks about when you see this going on in your country that you have deep heritage into. And this being so close to you, Jay, what does this invoke in you when you see this?
It invokes rage inside of me because not only does this kind of affect my heritage, but this also affects my family as well because my husband is active duty. So therefore, seeing how people are kind of enraged with the military and how the military is out here being deployed on its own citizens kind of puts a bad taste in the constituents' mouth. And yes. And so I apologize. I have an autistic son, so I'm so sorry. So it does. It puts a bad taste in their mouths about the military, and it really puts a different perspective on not only being Black in America or Native in America, but also being a military personnel. And it's one of those things where now they're looked at as the enemy and they're not looked at as someone who's there to protect them. And that's a problem.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Ms. Jasmine. I'll let you know before we go to Claire. I spent about a decade working as an outpatient respiratory therapist at a special place in Greensboro called the Gateway Center for Education. They serve special needs kids from infant all the way to age 21. And that was my dream job because I grew up an asthmatic. The Republicans in my state cut it out the butt and said no to the Obama expansion in 2015, which was that dream job for me. So on top of always being a progressive, that just more fuel to the fire, because how can you say no to our brothers and sisters that are in the special needs population. That just done something to me, and I interjected just to let you know, you good here. We know that the kids are going to make noise. You good here? I mean, he can come on camera if he wants to. We know you good.
He's incredibly smart, but he's emerging with his speech. So it's incredible to me, and we'll have this conversation next week too. But it's incredible to me that he's even able to even yell at me the way that he does. And Johnathan knows ever too well, because when we're out here talking policy or we're out here talking town halls, he'll hear him, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that he's yelling in the background. And he's like, one, he's a kid, and two, I understand. So it really helps when you have these people who are running in these positions who actually put forth effort to understand the dynamics of people's realities and their different I guess families, and how certain things go. But it's one of those things where sometimes it's embarrassing to me, not that he's autistic, but that he's yelling in the background when I'm actually trying to come make public statements or absolutely 100% just advocate. So but yes, absolutely, I also have a daughter that's she's neurotypical herself, and she's one of those people that really helps. So I will absolutely let Johnathan and you guys go back on. I'm going to pop back in down to the comments, and I'm going to be rooting you all on. Thank you for having me, and good luck, Johnathan. I'm super excited for you. I'm so proud of you, and you're the most incredible person I've ever met. Thank you for being you.
Thank you. That's my dog. We be talking.
Yeah.
She be keeping me sane at times, and her kids are always a good refresher. I always like to see the authenticity of people. Don't hide it. We're not perfect. No one's going to be perfect. And when you see stuff like that, I love Jasmine when it comes to just her being her. And she was the one that really pushed me out there. I got on a TikTok live, and she was like, Johnathan, I saw your videos, blah, blah, blah. You need to be out there. We need to work together. And she's introduced me to a plethora of amazing people to help propel me and put me in the right spots. But I wouldn't be here or nearly as far without her. So that's always going to be like a day one to me.
That's what's up. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll have her here exclusively next Thursday at 12. Be sure to tune in. And Jasmine, I'm with JB and Claire. Children and the challenges you face in life, they humanize you. Lean into it. People who don't feel like it humanizes you, those are the ones that most likely are stuck in MAGA. So don't even sweat that. It humanizes you. Now, Claire, the youngest in charge, making that transition, who has a lot to say. What does the riots invoke in you, where you're at right now between the ages of 25 and 30, working on a master's? Give us the perspective of someone who's young and you see this in your country.
So first I wanted to comment on Jasmine really quickly. I know we just did, but I grew up with a mom who worked full time, and I watched her struggle to make ends meet as a person who valued her career and valued her children at the same time. And I think that we as a country have to give women that opportunity to pursue careers regardless of what's going on with their kids. And we need to support them as a community. So thank you again, Jasmine, for coming on, and never feel ashamed for being the badass mother, spokesperson, advocate that you are. Back to the other stuff. Johnathan, I think this is very interesting and I talked to Lamont about this when we first started this. We actually have way more in common than not. And I think people will look at this panel of the three of us and they will make a lot of assumptions. But my father's a veteran. My mom worked for the federal government for almost 30 years. I am fluent in Spanish. I was a Spanish major in college. So I've utilized that a lot in my advocacy work, in my community outreach work. As I work at a restaurant right now, the entire back of the house is Hispanic, particularly mostly from a very particular region called Guerrero in Mexico. And it is the crime capital of the world.
See?
And most of the people who are coming from Guerrero, there's 3 rival gangs that are fighting for territory there. And the government simply cannot handle the amount of violence and pressure that's coming from these opposing gangs. And this is just one specific place. There's plenty of other countries that people are coming from and plenty of unique situations. But just for this little area of Mexico, anyone who's leaving there is leaving to prevent their children and their families from inevitable violence. It's a violent area, and it's not their fault that they were born there in that situation. We are lucky that we happen to be born in a place where that is not the reality, but that's what separates us, is dumb luck. And so who are we to look at these people who are literally running for their lives and say, do it the right way? I'm sorry, is there a right way to evade chaos? Is there a right way to run away from violence? And I've seen it. I grew up in the DC area. Some of my earliest mentors were Hispanics. And that's actually the reason I was inspired to learn Spanish, was because I noticed that there were a lot of kids coming to my school, even in elementary school, who had to go to ESL classes while we were having our normal classes because they hadn't yet learned English. And I remember finding and this is like first grade probably, it's one of my earliest memories, but finding one of my friends who was bilingual and having her tell me how to say, do you want to play at recess, and memorizing it so I could say it to the new girl in class who was going to ESL all the time and didn't know anyone. And so for me, language is all about connection. And the amount of people at my workplace alone who have learned that I speak Spanish, and the relief that they feel, because not only are they being socially ostracized by our society in a lot of ways, but then they're not even able to express themselves and express their grievances appropriately because they don't speak the language. And so even this past week, one of my coworkers, she just signed a lease for an apartment. I don't know if she's here documented or not, but regardless, she asked if I had a minute when I was at work the other night. She had me read her lease agreement and explain to her how much she was paying in base rent, what her utility costs were, and when she was going to have to pay everything, because the document was 1 million pages long and all in English. And she couldn't translate the whole document because it would get lost. And so I walked her through it and I just told her, this is how much you're paying, ignore this shit. This isn't important. And again, think about what it would take for you to have to go to another country where you don't speak the language, where you don't have connections, where you don't have the education, and what kind of desperation that would come out of. And then people are acting like this is like, oh, let's go on vacation and just hang out in the US. No, this is life or death. This is fleeing horrible situations. Or maybe it's not a horrible situation, but this situation is still better. So I'm really frustrated. I also think on the side of the protesting and the way that they have demonized it, and by they, I mean the right and the Republicans, but it really makes me think about the last time that the National Guard was federalized and was sent to a state. Do you guys know when that was? It was 60 years ago. 1965, and it was for the opposite reason that we're seeing today. It was Lyndon B. Johnson who invoked that authority in 1965, calling on troops to protect civil rights and protect civil rights protesters who were marching from Selma to Montgomery in Alabama. And the reason that the National Guard had to be mobilized was because the governor was blocking efforts to protect those protesters who were protesting peacefully and civilly. And who was one of them? Martin Luther King Jr. And so it makes me think of, what side of history do you want to be on? Because we can easily all look back at that 1965 moment and say, of course we want to be on the side of the peaceful protesters. Look at what great they've done. And then we're seeing these things happen again. It's an open note test and people are still failing it. We already know what the repercussions of stifling peaceful protest are. And so anyway, I don't know why people aren't looking to the past to see what would make the most sense and be the right thing to do now. With that.
Wow. So now you guys see why we come together and link up like Voltron, Transformers, whatever, what Legos, if you want to call it that. Well said, Claire. And I'll just give my quick end to what you guys have said. A lot of people don't want to look at it like that, Claire, because they want to ignore history. They want to ignore the history of where this country has been because they know it's an ugly history and they don't want to fess up to what needs to be done to fix it. That's why a lot of people don't reference history. That's why you see Republicans trying to get rid of history, because they know given people having to tackle the way this country came to be, more people would be sympathetic to the plights of marginalized people and would want to see them do better. But if you hide it and you've already got people set in their ways, it becomes hard to do that. And speaking of set in their ways, there have been a lot of troops who feel like what Trump is doing is unconstitutional and don't want to follow his orders. And so I wanted to summarize everything both of you all said on some hotline numbers troops can call. So these are the scenarios. If you're concerned about violating the constitutional rights, the GI rights hotline is a line you can call. The purpose, confidential guidance, counseling on rights and options you have if you feel like the president is giving you horrible orders that violate the Constitution. Here's another one. What to formally report illegal, unconstitutional orders. That you call the DOD hotline. Official reporting with whistleblower protection. Last but not least, need direct legal help because you're worried about someone in this administration not keeping your cover for being a whistleblower. You can call the JAG hotline for formal legal advice. So my troops that are out there that you know in your heart this is wrong and you don't want to be a part of it, you have options. Give these lines a call. And with that being said, I'll take us to the next subject, which is healthcare. And I've already showed you guys what this man looks like. So you know health is deeply ingrained in him. Ladies and gentlemen, again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share us. Me and Claire feel like the Claremont Show was one of the best things going and rising. And if you want to leave us a message, that link down below, bit.ly/talk to us, capital T in talk, capital T into us. Leave us a message and we'll make sure we play it on the air so that you can voice your opinions and be a part of this team. JB, I'm going to take you to healthcare. And I'm married to a kidney doctor, black kidney doctor, female at that. And the things that RFK are doing just enrage not only her as a progressive, but it also enrages other doctors who have formerly been Republican, not MAGA, but Republican, and have stepped away because they're doing things that are not based in any kind of real deal, scientifically tested information. And so, JB, I'm going to give you this clip. Take a look at what he's doing now, and then we'll let you talk about it and what things you think should be done when we come back.
This morning, a massive change by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. removing all members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee, which makes recommendations on the safety and efficacy of vaccines. Members getting a notice saying this email serves as formal notice of your immediate termination. Kennedy releasing a statement saying, "Today we are prioritizing the restoration of public trust above any specific pro or anti-vaccine agenda." Kennedy argues a clean sweep is needed to restore public trust, claiming the committee had conflicts of interest, adding the Biden administration appointed all 17 current members, with 13 of them last year. But critics have called this change dangerous and partisan.
Remember, this is the same man that just told you at his Senate hearing he would never take vaccines away from anyone, and he's doing that. This is the same individual that said, don't take my advice, I'm not a medical doctor.
Do you think that there needs to be a change in the process on how this board is appointed?
You know, you and I don't ask when our pilot is flying our plane, are you a Democrat or Republican? You ask, can you fly this plane safely? Do you have the experience and the expertise to do that? That's what this committee was all about. And it has served us very, very well over the years.
Lawmakers also reacting. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer calling the move reckless, radical, and rooted in conspiracy, not science. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who is a physician, posting on X, of course, now the fear is that the ACIP will be filled up with people who know nothing about vaccines except suspicion, saying that he will continue to talk with Kennedy to ensure that's not the case.
Brother JB, my degree is in science. I'm a respiratory therapist. I started a respiratory therapist business. The two issues that plagued me as a child, asthma and being overweight. And another issue that a lot of people don't even realize is a plague to a lot of marginalized communities is lack of educational attainment when talking to physicians, not understanding what they're saying and being able to follow through. And I feel like when you get quacks like this guy making things more difficult and them trying to reduce Medicaid, which I'm a product of, I would be dead had my mama not had Medicaid. It weakens the fabric of America, which is supposed to be our strong people. Floor is yours, JB. Talk to me about all these things.
This hits on so many levels. Let's be real. If you told us 10 years ago, if you said there's going to be a man that oversees the government and says his brain was eaten partially by a worm and he's going to get rid of vaccines, would we be okay with that? Again, would we be okay? He's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. That sounds crazy. And you would say that would never happen. Let's be real. Again, like you said, it's not Democrat or Republican. It's actual factual facts. This is something you can't debate. It is what it is. But also, let's be honest. This man knows nothing. He's rooted in conspiracies. He's saying all these fabricated things and saying it might be this, it might be that. That makes no sense. Measles outbreak, let's be honest. As a person growing up in the 90s, 2000s, I've never heard anyone say measles. I hear that in history books. But again, you think that's type of things are gone. But he makes it seem like, oh, if you get measles or if your child gets measles, they'll be sick a little bit. It'll be a week or two. That's not okay. This man knows nothing about healthcare. He had a worm in his brain. And he also has many, many stories of doing crazy things like you had a worm in your brain, picking up a dead bear and putting it in your car. Why?
He's a former heroin addict.
Exactly. These are the things where it's like the bar was really high and now we just dropped it really low. But it hits a lot more because I have a son, a 10-year-old son, and he has vaccines. He understands that. I don't understand seeing kids around his age and things like that. They need those. They're surrounded. COVID should be a prime example of that, of how stuff spreads so rapidly and things like that. And if you're not protected, what happens? It affects everyone. We really, really need to hit on this. But healthcare in general in America has dropped tremendously. I mean, I'm a big proponent because I deal with it on my son's level. I take care of my dad, who's on Social Security, he's on Medicare, who's on the VA. And that is probably the most frustrating thing people don't realize. Going to different doctors, the delays, as well as the information given, that is very difficult. And providing it in a way that's simplistic, that you can follow those directions, can save your life or kill you. But we are dismantling this whole democracy as well as our healthcare system. In Georgia specifically, our public health is getting, I think in the CDC, we had one of the, I would say, top 2 or 3 CDC employees in the nation. And I can tell you now, it has dropped significantly just off the fact of this administration. It's not because they're not doing their job. It's because they say, we don't need this research. We don't need this looking into cancer and how to fix this and things like that. That is baffling to me. I think younger generations don't realize how difficult it is to get Social Security, to get Medicare or Medicaid, and how important it is. Because dealing with my dad, I've gone out of network. I put up upwards to $10,000 just in the past 2 years to get care for him because there was no Medicare or Social Security couldn't cover it and things like that. That is the frustrating thing about this. We are jeopardizing not only our youth, but are elderly because they are the most susceptible to these illnesses and things like that. So a man with the conspiracies telling me vaccines aren't real or they don't help you or they cause autism sounds crazy.
Wow. Claire, floor is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear me say this about Claire all the time. She's starting her pathway to becoming a little bit more seasoned. It's so important that I stress that she's in a category where we've lost votes because a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter to me because I'm so young. So I value her opinion so tightly. I'd love to hear what she has to say about these things as someone who's getting ready to prepare to go in that direction. So Claire, drop it on us. What do you think about the sun-dried pumpkin and these sun-dried seeds he's got in his head telling him to do stuff?
Well, for someone who...
Oh, for a minute there, I thought that the picture was talking. Wait a minute.
For someone who's obsessed with DEI, where are your qualifications? If we want to talk about merit, we want to talk about, oh, you're not going to get the job just because you're Black or you're a woman. What the fuck gives you the right to get this job, Mr. Kennedy, other than your last name? So I mean, he's definitely not a beacon of health. We could listen to him. We could look at him. We could read about him and we would know that. But he's also a dangerous conspiracy theorist. He plants seeds in people's heads who already don't value science, who already don't value evidence-based articles, don't even understand scientific articles, that put fake evidence in their own write-ups on health. And of all of the departments to disregard science, this is the last one that needs to be doing that. So anyway, all that to say, there are very dangerous precedents for this type of language, for this type of messaging. People are going to die if they don't get these vaccines. People are going to die who are vaccinated but get infected by other people who didn't. And so making and framing vaccines, and I think in the video, God, I don't know the exact wording, but he said something along the lines of like, debates and like basically talking about like vaccine conversations as if it's like two sides. No, there's evidence and there's conspiracy. It's really not this big debate. It's pretty well documented that that they stopped some very, very prevalent diseases over the last 200 years, 150, I don't know when. Anyway, all that to say, it's an embarrassment, this administration. It's an embarrassment on the grounds of valuing science, on the grounds of valuing evidence-based practices. And it's disappointing that so many people like RFK right here, like RFK. I can't help myself, but that they don't see how many people they're going to harm because they do have access to healthcare. And if they don't even have access to healthcare through their government benefits, then they can pay for it. And so they're just going to turn a blind eye and they're going to say, oh, I don't really care if people aren't getting vaccinated because if I get this illness, sure, I can go on a respirator or I can have round the clock care. I'll be fine. And so it's also a disregard for people who don't have the same resources as you, which is the vast majority of this country. So I really don't like the man. And and I can't wait to see us learn from this experience and actually put people in positions of power who have earned those positions.
Well said, youngest in charge. Well said. All I can conclude with is just the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Basically, what we got going on here is health versus ideology. These moves shifts decision-making from experts to political litmus tests. What happens to the credibility of America? It drops. Public safety first. Suspending vaccine ads and pushing unproven treatments endangers children and vulnerable populations. That's fact. I hate it when they think that we can have this two-sided argument. Well, we need to have someone to counter everything. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no counter to facts. The fucking sun is hot. The other side of the sun ain't cold. The earth is round. It's not fucking flat.
Thank you.
There's no counter to a fact, ladies and gentlemen. A fact is a fact. And when you're dealing with people's health care, it riles me up pretty bad. But I'm going to save all this heat because I got plenty more for plenty shows. I have a special place in my heart for, not saying I don't like the people in between, but I love children and elderly people because I was raised by a grandparent. That many of times I had to go to the ER for my asthma. Who was there for me most of the time? My grandmother. Had it not been for grandma and Medicaid, I probably wouldn't likely be here. An inspiration for me to become a respiratory therapist. My journey with asthma and having to get allergy shots from the time I was 5 till I was 18 weekly. If there was no Medicaid, I wouldn't have got that. If there wasn't people who believed in science, I wouldn't have got that. We have to get back to educating our kids, putting critical thinking and the thought of sticking to facts in school. The reason why MAGA don't like facts is because facts support Democrats. You can put that on a t-shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, Claire.
I had one more thing I wanted to add. Also, these people who make these weird conspiracy theories about health and talk about anti-vaxxing and all these different things, where do they go when they fall violently ill? Mm-hmm. Who do they ask to save them? Mm-hmm. They go to the same place that they've been criticizing and that they've been saying is a bunch of bullshit. They go to the ER and they say, please fix my child. And they're like, didn't you vaccinate him? Well, no, but he's dying. So you do trust the medicine and you do trust the science, but only when it benefits you. Shameful.
JB, Claire got this wrong. When people get sick, they don't go to the doctor. They go to Joe Rogan's podcast and ask for whatever it is. Then they go to the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and ask for horse pills. Shame on you, Claire. You're too young to be in this conversation. JB, what's up?
I think just even with COVID, the many times I saw that propaganda or misinformation, like you don't need the vaccine, you'll be okay, you'll be sick for a week. I have family in healthcare that were nurses during that time. People died off of that assumption. People thought, I'll be fine, I'll be okay. When you're put on a ventilator, then what? You need that for the rest of your life, but most of the time you're not even going to survive. Just off of misinformation and him being at that top tier of a level and saying that is so detrimental to the US, our health and things like that, because people unfortunately don't do their research. They don't look at the facts. They don't it's a trust me, bro. I saw it on Joe Rogan or I saw it on the internet. I'm very disappointed in where we are, but we need to set that standard of trust the scientists. This person went to school for many, many years. They're specialized in this. Why wouldn't you trust this? Would you trust a basketball player to say, hey, this is how you need to shoot? Are you going to listen to him? Yes, because why? He's been doing this his whole damn life and he's a professional. We should think the same as our scientists.
Very well said. And my last joke about RFK, there's a show that I love and adore called Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's his wife. She was a main character on the show. That's Cheryl Hines. All I can say is, Cheryl Hines, shame on you. You used to be a big-time progressive. I don't know how you got twisted up in this RFK mess. And for all I know, because I don't know y'all bedroom secrets, maybe you have left them. If you did, God bless your sister. Women nowadays are empowered to stand on their own. Come out and let us know. Ladies and gentlemen, again, don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe. Definitely go leave us a message on what you're feeling when it comes to politics. bit.ly/talk to us, capital T in talk, capital T in 2, and let us know what you think. We're now to the segment where it's all about Johnathan Bonner, his run, his beliefs, what powered him to want to get into politics, followed by Claire has 2 questions for you. And then my brother will thank you for coming with us and get you out of here. So JB, what was it that got you into politics? And what is it that's going to separate you from all the other politicians we've seen that most of us feel like are sleazy used car salesmen that have rings on 9 of their 10 fingers?
I got in politics really heavy this year. I mean, I've always paid attention to policies and things like that, but it hit a point back in 2021. It was the end of Trump. Things were changing, but the policy started to affect everything. And then I saw who my representative was in Congress, and it was a guy named David Scott. He was about 76, 77 around that time. And I messaged him. I said, hey, Mr. Scott, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I didn't get a response. So I said, okay. Still kept up to date policies, tried to help, things like that. And we got to 2024 and Trump got in. Look, who's my representative? Mr. Scott. He's 79 right now. But in that moment, I saw the decline. I saw the writings on the wall. I heard people internally that know him saying, hey, he's a walker. He got in an argument with a reporter for taking a picture of him and saying, don't take a picture because he was in a wheelchair. Again, this man hasn't had a town hall since 2009. So in that instance, I said, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm a community activist. I'm helping people. I want to help people, not only from my father to my son. I can relate to a lot of people. And I like to tell people my story. Both my parents were in the military. They served in Desert Storm. My parents got divorced when I was 8. I had to bury my oldest sister when I was 12. I was taking my brother to rehab when I was 17. My father had his first seizure right in front of me when I was 18, where I turned down all my football scholarships to take care of them. So I know the sacrifice part. But even after that, went to community college and saw how that goes. From there, I went to California to play football and chase the D1 aspirations. And then my dad got more sick, so I had to stop that and come back home, take care of him. And even with that, I saw how crazy the healthcare system is, as well as they treat our elderly. And I'm going to be honest with you, assisted living facilities, senior homes, they're expensive. I mean, they're like $4,000, $5,000, and that's just going up in care. So being someone that young at that time, I didn't have that money. I had to take loans out, stuff like that. My credit took a hit and things like that. So I kept on pushing. And even during that time, I was sacrificing healthcare because my deductibles were so damn high. I lost 2 teeth. I was wearing contacts for months at a time, which is horrible. But the funny thing I laugh about, I had a pair of glasses. Whenever my contacts would just dry out and I couldn't use them, I would wear a pair of glasses that were broken, so they had one leg on them. And I had them because I couldn't afford a pair of glasses. And then from there, I kept on pushing. My family was like, keep on going, Johnathan. I got a job in Texas. I was a pest control manager, overseeing about 50 people, working like 60, 70 hours in the hot Texas sun. And I was taking care of me, my family, my father. So I was happy. And then I got a call from my ex I didn't talk to since I was like 18, 19. And she was like, hey, you got a son and I need help. So I quit my job in Texas, moved back home with my mom, took my son in full time. And from there, I was jumping from job to job, from like Kroger to fast food restaurant manager to carpentry at one point, which is kind of crazy. I didn't see in my future. But with that, I am very big on telling people throughout this process, my family helped. My mom and sister were major proponents in my life from being the man I am. I mean, they were taking PTO days to watch my son. I would have to work like 10-hour days, or, hey, I can't make it because I have to get this job interview. They would do that and do the sacrifices. So I know the sacrificing part. From there, I kept on going. I got my project management certification. From there, I got my break in corporate America, and I took the responsibility of taking my father out and taking my son on and being a full-time single father and full-time caretaker to a disabled vet. With that being said, my mom was a federal worker for over 35 years, got pushed out because of Doge. My sister is a teacher in a Title I school. So I see the effects of that. I mean, these many things, I know it's not just my family. I know it's not just, it's a single, oh, I'm just bad luck. It's our community. This is a more common thing that happens to everyone. One of those things happened to us. We know someone that's dealing with these things. So with that, I feel kind of led by God, or really led by God, to fight for the people that have no voice, don't come from the working class, or come from the working class and things like that. So I always tell people 2% of Congress comes from the working class. That's about 11 people out of 540. So out of those people, these are the people that are creating your policies, your laws that affect your life long term. you would expect them to know your struggles, feel your struggles, but they don't. So that's why I'm here to run and things like that. And I tell people, Mr. Scott is a great guy. He did his sacrifices, but it's time to pass the baton. He's 79. And then even any other candidates in the race, I tell people, where are they from? What's the background? What's their ethos? Are they some Harvard grad that can't relate to you on any type of motive? Are they big time scientists and their families in the big medical field? I can tell you they did not go paycheck to paycheck. And then you get these guys that own, I think, car dealerships and yachts. Why are you guys putting your neck on the line, or not the neck on your line, but running for this position? It's just for fame. It's only to look cool and have that name. They don't want to help you. They've been in these positions for a very long time. They're a political lifetime politician. We don't need those people anymore. This is a new generation of actual people that want to help the people, that understand us. And I feel much more trustworthy of a person that knows my struggles than a person that's never lived my life or dealt with that. And we have to start calling that out. The Democratic way of us running for these positions, it's very difficult. I tell people $7,000 just in Georgia. It might be something different other places, but to put my name on the ballot, $7,000. I don't know about you, but most people don't even have $1,000 for healthcare or just emergency. So $7,000, it feels very, very targeted, where they don't want people like us to be in these positions. And that's bullshit. I'm here to call it out. I'm here to fight. And we have people that have beat the system. I mean, AOC is a prime example. When she ran, she beat the #3 Democrat at the time. So if she can do it, you get more people coming from the South, Jasmine Crockett. But my big thing is to inspire the youth, inspire Claire. I'm 30. I feel like I'm 58, but I want to inspire young Black men, young people just in general, to be in these positions, not only federal, but state and local, and know what's going on and be very positive. Know what's going on in your community. Because I tell people, Congress is great, but you see the most change on the state and local level. These are your city councilmen. These are your board of commissioners. These are people paying for, hey, you don't want corporate investors buying up stuff? We won't allow it. But if they say it's okay and we don't vote for them, they vote in the interest of them. You want more public sidewalks. You want to expand MARTA or better infrastructure for traffic and things like that. These are the people that fight for those and change that. But we need to be aware. I want to show that on the way, civic education, the simplistic way, because I think we hit that point where in America, we have to make it digestible, from like a 4th grader could know and be like, that's what that person does. Because right now, being in the election, we see that statistic of a 6th grader, 8th grader reading level. That's probably very accurate. I mean, my sister being a teacher, she has kids or had kids that 5th grade, what happens? They can't read. You get to 11th grade. Hey, that kid can't read on grade level, which is very, very scary, because this is the next generation. These are the people that are going to be working with us, taking care of us. You want them to be educated. You want them to fight for us. I mean, DEI being removed, that's outrageous. I mean, being in the South, I knew about slavery. I knew about what the horrendous things the Americans have done, but yet I've never felt ashamed throughout that whole period of time. I was still a proud American doing the Pledge of Allegiance every damn day, because I understand no one's perfect. Our country's not perfect, but we need to be aware of our history. We need to teach our youth about it so they don't do the same cycle, because history repeats itself. Let's stop that. Before it gets to that point. And that's my spill. I'm here to help. I'm here, like with Jasmine or my friend Bernard. We're the people wanting to change. We're the ones that want to do great things for our nation. We actually know the struggles. So yeah, that's my TED Talk for you guys.
Claire, I'm gonna give the floor to you. But I want to say this to Johnathan real quick, brother. Next time I come to Atlanta, lunch is on me, by the way. And you can hold me to it, because I know we'll be eating salad and grilled chicken anyway. But
I don't know about that. Can't promise that.
Okay. I'm ecstatic that you said you position the way you position your life because that real life story of all these transitions, people can relate to it. I can relate to it. One of these days when me and you get a chance to talk, you'll hear my story. You might say, young man, you sound like just like me. And having said that, I pass the baton to the people you just got finished talking about. This is why I wanted her to structure the questions. She is the next crop of leaders that are going to help save this democracy. And she's a woman. Not only is she a woman, she's a smart woman. So MAGA don't want her, stay away from a MAGA. And she is strong, very intelligent. And yeah, look at her. She got her whoop on. Johnathan, I know you know what a whoop is. Yeah.
I'm serious about her.
That's right. And so that's why for me it's been so important that when we have these talks, we really, really focus on what she's seeing in that age group, because they're next up. They're next up. So having said that, Claire, hit the man with the questions you have for him.
Well, first, I want to say I appreciate your perspective on the value of youth, the value of a new perspective, because it's empowering me. I have a lot of imposter syndrome on this platform. Lamont's got tons of experience in the entertainment world, in business, in lots of different realms. And no matter how much I've done with my life, I inevitably am not going to have that experience just because of time. But Lamont's done a great job empowering me and my community on TikTok. I've garnered our community here on our show has really helped bolster me and say, hey, like, you don't have to be a certain age for your perspective to matter and your experiences to be valuable. So I really appreciate you speaking on that, because I do think that obviously there's an importance with experience, but there's also so many other things you can bring to the table without having a 20, 30-year career in something.
Right.
With that said, I also wanted to say both our mothers are victims of Doge. My mom lost her job this year because Doge decided that anti-harassment training and anti-discrimination training for government workers was not something that we should be investing in. And that's what my mom does, is employment law and preventing workplace harassment, giving lessons on how to discipline employees who have acted inappropriately at the federal level. No budget for it anymore. So she has pivoted and she's had to go corporate. And she's making it work. But it's super disappointing that both of our mothers dedicated decades of their lives to building a better future, to working with the federal government, and they have been betrayed and abandoned by the very system that was upholding them and that they were upholding for many years. So I hear you on that. And I know that they're going to get through it, but I'm sorry that they have to get through it. And I wish that they didn't have to. Do we want to go to my questions or? Yeah. Okay. So we go to my questions. Okay. So I combed through some of your stuff, your website and everything. I saw that you had a lot of emphasis on healthcare, a lot of emphasis on empowering small businesses and local American industries. And then also a lot about transparency, which all of the above, I'm eating it up. But I did want to talk to you a little bit about, and especially you being from Georgia, the situation we're seeing right now with women's reproductive health care, especially being in a red state that has already become one of the most restrictive in the country when it comes to abortion access. And then we covered this last week, but the recent Trump executive order that is no longer basically taking away emergency abortions. And I just kind of want to hear your stance on that and what you would do if you were elected, and kind of how that impacts your life and how it impacts your constituents.
So first off, my big superheroes in my life are women. My mom, my sister, my grandma, they're all the strongest pillars of my family. And with that, they taught me that's my damn body. That's not up to you or me. It's up to them. And I'm very big on women's reproductive rights. That's for them. But also living the life I've had and meeting people, miscarriages are very common. difficult having children or just in general. It's very difficult. You need these regulations to protect them. People don't speak on it because it's a negative connotation, but we need to bring that to light. There's an instance of Adriana Smith that happened in Georgia. She was pregnant, and I believe with the lack of health care, because they saw her as a number, they just gave her pain pills. She had a aneurysm or was it a clot, but pretty much ended up going brain dead, and she had a child. So now, not only can they not pull the cord, she's brain dead, living with a baby that's probably going to have health defects. The parents or the family is going to have to deal with the medical bills of that. That is the thing of these primitive Stone Age type of laws that they say, oh, that doesn't happen. It happens all the time. Yet hospitals are very scared. They're afraid. They're saying, hey, with her care, they were passing her around to different hospitals because they understand that it's unfair that her family has to deal with that. It's unfair that she has to deal with that. It's unfair for the baby. Let's be honest, because who's going to take care of that baby? I hate that narrative, the state or the family. It's hard already to take care of an able-bodied child, a child that is disabled and it's so much more, and it's unfair. And I understand life happens and things happen, but we need to fight for our women. It's not her body. Old men that lived in the 1940s and 60s shouldn't be making these laws and regulations. And again, Roe versus Wade already got passed. Why are we reverting back? Why are we cutting back? What's the point of that? We got over this many, many years ago. Why are we coming back to it? That makes no sense in my eyes. We knew what it was before, but now you guys want to bring it up? That's bullshit. We need to be fighting for our women. I'm going to fight for them in Congress. I know damn well my mom and my sister are going to be yelling at me, as well as my grandma, like, you better fucking fight for us, because that is who I am as a man. We need to fight for our women. If I ever have another kid, I have a son, but if I ever have a kid and she's a daughter, I want her to look and say, that man fought for me. That man knows and has an ethos of he cares for everyone. And again, it's just feels basic to me in my eyes. So that's my stance on that.
Beautiful.
Claire, whenever someone talks about fighting for, women and they have daughters, how can I not show my daughter and why it's so important to fight for children? This is my daughter when she was about 1.
Oh.
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 She's precious.
Yeah. So, Johnathan, well said. We need it. And to add to, and Claire, I'm sorry, just expand on what he said.
Yeah, please.
One of the reasons I found out that they like to do this is because they understand that the gap between white and minorities is shrinking. And they also know that the majority of people that get abortions, as much as they like to vilify minorities, is not minorities. It's white women.
It's women that look like me.
And not only let look like Claire, but let's really dig deep into it. They're in the South. And the more they can the more they can have these women bear children, whether they want it or not, we're breeding more white people. We're kicking the can down the road where the minorities become the majority. And we also are able to better indoctrinate these people with the MAGA mindset if it's happening in the places where MAGA is prevalent. Flores, back to you, Claire.
Yeah, on top of that, it's also perpetuating a free, cheap labor force. The number one thing, the reason that poverty is a cycle is because if you have a child and you're already in poverty, it's become exponentially more difficult to climb out of said poverty. And so if you further restrict people's decision-making abilities when it comes to when and where to have children, specifically women, then you're going to have a ton of people who are not well educated, who need quick, easy jobs, who are willing to accept really, really low wages in order to make ends meet, and who don't have the resources to fight back if they recognize that they're being abused by the corporations. And so not only is it a eugenics thing, like you just talked about, Lamont, where we need to perpetuate the white race. And I got a lot of weird feedback when I My most viral TikTok in the past couple months has been one where I talked about white guilt. And the first people who came to my post were actually neo-Nazis. And then I don't know how the algorithm turned it around, but it suddenly got on the side of Black TikTok. Thank God. I mean, and originally I wanted, in a weird way, the neo-Nazis and the MAGAs to get the message. But I realized, unfortunately, the verbiage I was using, they already were labeling me as woke, and they were already putting me into another category. So some of them, I had a few people that were white and reached out and were like, I'd never thought of it this way. That, to me, 2 or 3 people, I've won. I've done what I needed to, because the Black people don't need to hear this shit. But it's crazy, and I've told Lamont this, how many people were in my comments saying, you're blonde and blue-eyed. Why are you cowering to the Black race? You need to perpetuate the white race, as if I'm some sort of breeding machine to create blue-eyed, blonde-haired people. Maybe I will have kids. Maybe I won't. Maybe my husband will be Black. It's none of your damn business, because I don't care if my kids have blue eyes or not. I care if they live in a safe country and they have opportunities, and the people beside them maybe don't look like them or maybe don't talk like them, but they respect them. That's what I care about. And so, yes, I applaud your response. And I also think it's not just a women's issue, it's an economic issue as well. It's very closely tied to our economic system. And people who are Republicans who try to claim that it's all about protecting and saving lives, they don't give a shit once the baby comes out, which tells you what their real agenda is, which is to create a very cheap and accessible working class so they can throw them in factories and keep producing bullshit. So amazing.
Let
Go
JB
ahead.
jump back in.
Yeah, even with that, I tell people in Georgia, a statistic just came out. It takes $99,000 to live comfortably in Georgia. That's one person. If you want to have a family, it's $236,000. That's a family of 4. I'm gonna be honest. Statistically, I think the national average of what people bring in is about 50,000. In Georgia, it's around 50,000 as well. So does that make sense? 2 people can only do 1 person. So that we have to start talking. No one talks about daycare. If anyone knows, as a young person, a millennial, you want to go daycare, that's a mortgage. That is a car note. That is something that the government should have been jumped in and things like that. Oh, why aren't they having kids? Because I can't take care of this child without being homeless. You don't give us the incentives. So we need to, like you said, it's a cycle. It's everything's connected. Job Corps being dismantled, yet I believe I saw on the military website a lot more incentives to go into the military and things like that. That's a weird coincidence when we start to take away incentives of not going to the military and doing a influential thing in career or trade, and we're going straight into the military. It's a pipeline when we need to stop that.
Yep. And kind of weird how expensive higher education has become, but if you go to a military academy, it's free as long as you pay it back with years of your life. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Facts. What's your next question, Claire?
Second question, and all I have left for you. But so I grew up right outside of DC in Alexandria, Virginia. 3rd generation of, so my grandfather worked for the government. Lots of family that worked for the government, both my parents. And when my mom was growing up in the DC area, the vast majority of her friends' parents, her peers' parents were either military, like Congress, or worked on the Hill, something related to the government. When I was growing up, most of my friends' parents were lobbyists. They were real estate developers. They were corporate lawyers. But the lobbyists really irk the shit out of me. And I've talked to Lamont about this. It is legalized corruption, in my opinion. With that being said, I've heard all about your stance on transparency, and also on your stance with supporting smaller businesses, not giant corporations. I would love to hear what you think about lobbying and what your ideal America would look like. Would it have lobbyists, or would there be restrictions? etc. Yeah.
And I like to say not at all. I don't believe they should even be there. They're the people trying to influence, speaking on the behalf of corporations and people in higher places. That makes no sense. And I understand it makes it very difficult. I want to put people's mindset. I think in Australia, it takes $32 million just for the prime minister and his Democratic Party to fund those candidates and do things like that. That's just a minor gap for a presidential campaign. And where's the money coming from? I'm telling you, it's not coming from the working class. It's corporations throwing it there, from Republican to Democrat and things like that. We need to get rid of that. I think the reason why the youth doesn't really connect with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, it's because they hear that narrative of it's corporations, it's lobbyists, it's people throwing millions of dollars that can't relate to me into this race, and they corrupt these politicians to having to make these horrible decisions and things like that. Sorry, but with that being said, we need to get rid of that. We don't need them to be here. We need to be transparent in our information. I know we have it in open source where you get donations, but we really need to make that more accessible and easier to read through and see and say who donated, who was his bigger donors. I think Zoran Mandami, the New York mayor, he broke down his donations. And I loved it when it said, I think he has 85% of small like donations, $80 and below are donating to him. And then the rest were like minor, like 10% or less than that were big donations and things like that. I love to see that because that tells me you're a people person first. You're not selling your soul to these big organizations and these big PACs and stuff like that. So I think in my campaign right now, that's the difficult thing. You see candidates say, hey, I raised $100,000 in 2 days. I can tell you for a fact it's not, because you got the grassroots, you got the people giving you that much money. You're a scientist, you went to Harvard, you own car dealerships. You can write your own check and say, I don't need to fundraise. And that's the part we need to get rid of. We need to hit cap limits on these, how would you say, these campaigns, so they can't be misused. You can't be tempted to do horrible things when you get into office and things like that. So I'm here to be transparent, call people out on their bullshit, regardless if you're Democratic, Republican. It has to be called out, because as a working class American, we need to know who we're voting for and who you sold your soul to. Because if you didn't sell your soul, I feel much better giving money to you, because I know it's genuine. I know you need that money. But that's my spill on that.
Yeah. No, I could not agree anymore if it were possible. And I do think it's kind of funny when I think back on my friends' parents who were lobbyists. Spineless people, not the parents that I wanted to be around. Hateful parents, mean parents. I mean, and it makes sense because they were selling their soul. I had a lot of friends whose families had a ton of money, and they always had a certain car that their whole family owned. And it was because the dad lobbied for this specific car company. And his job was to go to Capitol Hill and fight against eco programs and green energy because, hey, this car company is giving me and my family free cars so that I can go and pester everybody in our government until they cave, because I have unlimited time and resources. In fact, I'm getting paid a lot of money to go and hang out and bother people. Meanwhile, you and I, we don't have time to take off work for sickness, for a kid being in the hospital, for whatever, let alone to go and sit outside of some person's door in the Senate and say, hey, have you thought about my new bill proposal? Have you thought about my new bill? So yes, when I went to Spain, actually, in college, I spent 5 months abroad. I did a semester there, and they have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. And Obama actually studied their healthcare system when he was trying to do Obamacare and set it all up. But anyway, I worked at a facility for people infected with AIDS and HIV. And I talked to a lot of people there and basically just described what our healthcare system is like, how our government works. And I told them, about how ambulances cost money. And they could not believe it. And I said, if you get sick in the US and you need to go to the hospital, someone drives you. Unless you're bleeding out from a gunshot wound, someone drives you. And they were like, what? And then second thing I told them about was, so we have these things called lobbyists. Large companies pay them, and then they go and they bother everyone who's making the laws until they can change the laws. And the more money you have, the more lobbyists you can hire. And they're like, oh, so it's just legal corruption. And I was like,
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I think also looking to other countries and figuring out what are y'all doing, and can we do that? Can we adjust? And what good would come from that is also very valuable, because we get so stuck in this is just the American way. We've never had healthcare, so why would we get it now? We can do it. We do have the resources. We have the funds. We have the taxpayer money. It's just going to other shit.
And one of my viral videos, the first thing I said was tax the rich. It's very simple. You guys, these are billionaires. I think the difference people have to understand is there's a difference between rich and wealthy. Yes. I have friends that were once rich, and that is probably about $7 million and below. Let's be real. But when you get to that 50 million plus, if you lose $10 million, it sucks, but hey, I still have $40 million. I can still have a plethora of things. My family's good. I have generational money. Everything's going to be okay. When it comes to these people that are in our government and trying to save these big tax the rich laws and things like that, if you tax them just a little bit more, I mean, let's say 5% more, they wouldn't hurt the money. The money wouldn't hurt them. They would be okay. They would still be financially growing. We could get simplistic things. No ambulance don't cost any money. Children don't have to pay for school lunches. Let's say this, for instance, Elon, him being a billionaire. If $1 billion went into anyone's economy, we could have Medicare for all, for just that one state. Let's be honest, probably multiple states, but that is the thing where people have to stop getting this mindset of I'm a broke billionaire or a broke millionaire right now. You guys are probably not going to be there, but not in a negative way, but stop bailing these people out. Stop arguing for them. They are trying to not help you. They're not for you. You are seen as a number. Tax them, make them pay their way. They're not going to run away and say, oh, they're going to another country. They're not. They're ingrained. They understand that they have power here. Let's be real. So let's get them to actually pay their fair share. Stop having tax breaks for these big corporations, these rich 1%ers, and do something about our lives. We can fix a lot more about the U.S. if we just tax them, if we stop allowing these lobbyists to speak on their behalves and things like that.
Period.
I'll summarize. Go ahead, Claire.
I'll just be quick. But I mean, I saw this in my own life. I grew up upper middle class, and then I went to boarding school for high school. And I was all of a sudden around people whose great grandfathers owned plantations, and they had generational wealth down so many generations you couldn't even fathom it. And I felt, and I've told Lamont this, I felt poor. My parents made, and I'll be transparent, my parents made over $200K a year, I think, most of my life, maybe up to 300, I don't know, something in that range. They both worked for the government. They had great benefits. I grew up first going to public schools where I was the rich kid. And then all of a sudden I end up at this boarding school where people are the top 0.0001%. And I couldn't afford to go on spring break with them. I couldn't afford to go shopping with them. And so I was seeing in real time, oh, I'm 1%. This is 0.01%. This is crazy.
You're not even 1%. And that's why I tell people, unless you're making, let's be $1 million a year, you're probably not in that 1%. So stop trying to speak on their behalf. Stop trying to fight for them.
It's these wannabe billionaires who are never going to get there, who are like, oh, I need to protect these billionaires for someday when I'm a billionaire so that no one takes my $1 billion. It's like, no one's even trying to take your $1 billion. Maybe they're taking a quarter of it. Maybe even not that much, but the amount of an impact that would make is unfathomable for the little people like us. So anyway, Lamont, please jump in.
Well, I'm gonna get JB out of here. Thank you for being so gracious with your time, and we really hope you've enjoyed being here. We hope the audience has enjoyed this lively discussion. And JB, I'm gonna give you the last word. I want to summarize a lot of what you both said in the last 2 minutes with something I've been preaching, because one of these days I'm thinking I might have to jump in this thing and run for office, just considering the experiences I've been through. When it comes to two issues, number one, the Republican Party for years have been good at priming their people through their echo chambers of Rush Limbaugh, talk radio, Fox News. And now you've got, thousands of little mini fake ass Rush Limbaughs on the internet still helping to do the priming. And one thing that they've primed people to believe in is wrong to take something from the government. When I always have to be the only, and I live in a very, very red county, and I tend to get on old and new MAGA's nerves because I'm versed in business because I've done it. I'm versed in medicine because I've done it. I'm versed in childcare because I've owned childcare property and been working in childcare. And sometimes I get on their nerves because I can challenge them on every lie that they throw at me. And I always say, why are you guys telling people who are poor to have all this pride and not take from the government when you rich motherfuckers is behind closed doors lobbying every politician to give you tax breaks? You're lobbying politicians to bring Amazon here, give them $5 million upfront, build this building, and then not let them pay taxes for 10 years, only for sometimes, not all the time, but for that building to shut down, and then the county is stuck with a bill. When if you was to take that same damn money and spread it across what Republicans used to like, which is supposed to be small business in the community that's the backbone, you could enrich that same community with the people in the community that would then attract more people to come to that community because you spent that same money trying to bring in a damn Amazon on the people in the damn community. That's number one. Number two, I don't understand. Well, I do understand it, but I think it's wrong. Democrats need to push that message I said, you said, and Claire said, that one of the major points of the government is to help the middle class and the poor get to a point where we're not having to rely on the rich people to continue to set the narrative, because when they vote, it counts a little more than the middle class and poor, because not only are they voting, but they're spending all this money to set the narrative and set the people we have to vote for, which are already bought. Ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, JB gets the last word. Tell people how they can reach you, what they can do to support you, and generally, overall, how can they find you?
Well, you guys can find me on my website, Bonner, BONNER, for Congress. That's my website, and that's all my socials, so you can look me up there. Final thoughts. I want to tell people my life is very crazy. You could say it's a pity and things like that. I don't need a pity vote. I need you guys to understand the ethos of me as a man. And I'm a man of resilience, and I am here to show you guys, or my life should show you that I'm resilient. I'm going to fight. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to be here when it's raining. I'm going to be here when it's sunny and things like that. And that's the type of people you want to fight for you. That's the type of people that you want in DC, because you know they're going to be genuine. You know they feel you. You know you're going to see them out in public, in grocery stores, and not in some high-end place. I don't come for money. I wish I did sometimes, because I think life would be a lot easier. But in that essence, I want you guys to start to be more, pay attention, do your research, look into your candidates, see if they align with you, see where they get their money from, because eventually that's going to make sense why they voted in that certain way and things like that. I care for everyone, regardless of any political affiliation and things like that. So I never want to ostracize anyone, because at the end of the day, as a congressman, you're going to have constituents that don't like you. You're going to have constituents that are Republican or whatever. But at the end of the day, they should know that man still cares for me. If he saw me out with a, unfortunately, red MAGA hat, he's still going to be, hey, I care for you. You might be a little delusional, but I'm going to fight for you still. But that's my spill. And if you guys support your grassroots candidate, support the person you know, support the one you know the money's not going to go anywhere else, and donate. My big thing is it doesn't have to take a lot. $25, $20. Don't eat Chipotle for 2 days or 3 days. I don't know. And support the person who helps you. Support the person that's going to better your life. And that's it.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like this video and go support this brother. Again, JB will get a copy of this whole entire live stream so that he can chop it up so that you can hear these good messages that he said. And if you want to hear it all in its entirety, well, you can come to the podcast. The link is there for Spotify. You can also leave us a message at bit.ly/talk to us. You can always find me all over the place. You know where Claire is at. And you can check out a link on this channel that says The Claremont Show. JB, thank you. We hope we didn't do you a disservice. We hope we treated you well enough that you'll come back and even send some other politicians our way that need the good energy. And ladies and gentlemen, until that next Sex is Hell video, we're out.